everybody, it's Cinnamon Cooney, your Art Sherpa, and today I'm going to show you how you can create for yourself at home this gorgeous abstracted floral. I'm going to show you how to create all the techniques here, all the color mixes that you see. I'm going to break it down step by step. To help me do that is my husband, John.
Hello.
Now, this is part of a daily painting challenge where I meet with my community every day from April 1st to April 30th, and we do a daily painting. And I do that with my community because nothing makes you a better painter in the world than just doing more paintings. It's the most easy, significant, low-hanging fruit of something you can do to really improve your skills is just get out there and do that every day. So this is a yearly challenge that we do. We are on year 5. We're getting kind of fun and good at it. To that end, if you check the description below, you're going to find a bunch of links to my website, and you're going to find information there about different resources that you have, other Acrylic Aprils, the school, we have a store, maybe you see something here that you want to get. So there's a lot there for you. Don't have to do any of that. You could just read the materials and the brushes. That's also where I had that information. It's in that description. You can hit the subscribe button because I teach free art like this all week, all year, every year. And that's kind of awesome because my whole passion in life is helping new painters learn how to paint. Now, this is a fun painting, easier than you think. There is a traceable that's on the website too. And you can just get that and download that and transfer that on if you don't want to freehand in your flowers, which I totally understand. Get your paint, get your brushes, come back, and I'm really going to show you how to paint these abstract flowers with butterflies. So we have an 8x8 canvas. On the palette is Mars Black, Phthalo Blue, Phthalo Green, Burnt Sienna, Ultramarine Blue, Cad Red Medium, Cad Yellow Medium, Dioxazine Purple, and Titanium White. Shall we throw up step 1? All right, in step 1, I'm going to use the Big Bright. This is the number 20 Raphael Artini brush. You can just use any bright brush. This brush is made from hog bristles. I'm going to take a little bit of my Phthalo Green and Burnt Sienna and kind of make a dark foresty green. Very, very much like that. And then I'm going to add a smidge of Cad Yellow. And come here and start doing little brushing back and forth, kind of random strokes, sort of talking about a background area. Maybe a little more brown in that one. Kind of take it to a green gold. I like to do that on occasion. You can see I just work it in a little bit at a time. And I'm doing some scumbling out. I'm not necessarily filling everything, and I'm leaving some fairly randomized shapes. I'll go ahead and kind of blend out a little bit. You can see if I go back and forth gently over those areas, it sort of softens those colors and brush marks, diffuses them. All right, I'm not going to dry, but we're going to call this another step. So we're breaking up the color mixes a little bit because it's kind of a big transition. I'm going to take a little bit of my ultramarine blue and my burnt sienna, and they come in and they make kind of a gray, a blue steel gray. And I'm going to work this right through there. It's a fairly deep value. I'll come back over the green in a few places and they kind of blend in. You can see I'll like work them together here. And as I come on the edges, I will try to sort of softly diffuse it a little bit. I'm creating an out of focus background. Kind of dark. As I come down, I'm going to take the ultramarine blue into the dioxazine purple and deepen this almost into an indigo blue. Blending it up in. ultramarine blue, dioxazine purple, creating this dark value down at the base. And it's pretty dark. Now I can soften this if I have a mop nearby with my mop before it's dry, and I'll show you what that looks like. It really diffuses it quite a lot. This really works best if the paint is wet and the mop is dry. And it just
that's kind of counterintuitive. You should say that again.
This works best when the paint is wet and the mop is dry.
The paint is wet and the mop is dry. So it's a clean, dry mop.
It's a clean, dry mop that you do not want to let that little dusting of acrylic paint get into. It will not benefit from it. So I always tend to wash those and put those aside so I don't forget them. I have left the paint on them and it does do some damage. So that particular one, that particular mop is the 1-inch Princeton Select Line brush. It's an oval mop. It's synthetic. It'll remind you of a blush brush in a makeup kit. And you can do that with any soft brush that you have. If you have a really soft brush in your brush kit, it's just about going over the wet area with a dry brush. If you want to take it down to that extra soft diffusion. So green bloopy up here, blue bloopy down here, and now it's time to dry. So I'm still on the same brush, the number 20 Raphael. This is the Hog Bright. It's a nice one. If ever you're trying to get a sense of scale, you can look at it compared to my hand. You just want something in that inch range wide, ½ inch to an inch. It's just something to do. Now I'm going to come over here with a little more brown and a lot more yellow. I don't mind if a bit of the green picks up in there at all. And I'm going to get some white involved. I'm going to get some white in on this. And I'm going to just brush little areas. Irregularly. They're kind of like a little highlight. Maybe sometimes a little more yellow in there. I'm going to focus that really here, where the green is. And if I get too much, I'll just come back with a little bit of green to knock it back, because I don't want to make a uniform distribution of it. So I'm just coming back with my green color to diffuse that out. So it's a bit of a far away, far away space. Now down here, I'm going to come back with my dioxazine and my ultramarine blue for a second coat. Because we want this to be very dark at the base. Right? It's going to almost read like a black. We're really only using black a couple of places, but it's going to feel like that. I might brush a little bit of that dark color up into the space up here, just kind of implying that it's happened. I'm going to rinse out a bit. Take a little bit of my ultramarine blue and a smidge. I just get the smallest amount of burnt sienna. Maybe kind of pull some of that loosely up here. In there, this is like, see how these are very random brush strokes, and I'm just touching the brush and releasing, and it's not the full brush work. Even where I take this into this lower area, like if I go in here and I add a little highlight loosely brushed in, creates some interesting dimension, does it not? Maybe a little upward brushwork, but not too much. I think that that's pretty good. That's a fairly loose expressive, chill little beginning, I think. I'm going to rinse it out, dry the canvas, and we'll come back and do the next step. You've got this. You're doing good. Deep breath, let it out. It's just another day in a daily painting. So once I have this background in, I can come kind of put in a fun floral. I'm going to take a little bit of my dioxazine purple over to my cad red and just deepen the cad red a smidge. I work it in slowly because it's such a tinting color. And we're going to come here and we're going to talk about something that's going to take up, oh my goodness, a good amount of space. Right? Like if I bring it there, say it's up there. And I'm going to pull a brush stroke down towards this center hub here. Right there. It's all going to kind of curve in. Sometimes I might wiggle it. Just bringing this down right now. Filling that kind of in just because I want some paint there. Just because I want some paint here. All right, that's a nice, and that gives me a sense of like the amount of space something is taking up. Now I'm going to come down here and I'm going to do kind of a similar thing. I know that it's going to be right about here to right about there. I'll brush that in. This is going to be a shallower dish. And you can see I'm just brushing back. And the edge of that brush goes kind of up and down, doesn't it? Now maybe a little bit of this red over here into the dark blue and purple color. You can see it's very muted. It's there, but by muting it into our background, what does that do? That pushes that red back. It creates a sense of this has space here, right? Like there's, you know, botanical shapes in the garden and they are related to each other, but some of them are in shadow. I'm going to continue with this dark and I'm going to make a little squiggle, as you can see, and then little corner dots kind of coming up, sort of random. Also, just a little bit there. Some dots around here. Now, I want to dry this, and I'll show you what you're going to do next. So this is looking pretty cute. I'm going to come get a little more red, a little brighter than what I had previously mixed. It still has some purple in it. I'm going to make a couple little, I don't know, they're like little flow away leaves, I guess is what I would think of, and maybe another bit there. I'm going to come here and go over my dark red, if you can see, and then that creates sort of a, and I'm all scribbly. See how I'm scribbly? Never underestimate the power of your scribble. Now this I'll keep fairly to the top of, like that just sort of implies that there was a little bit at the edge of that flower there. Well, I am kind of painting flower inspired stuff, so just a few here. I like to make sure that things have a couple tones, whether I'm doing a realistic or abstract piece, it's just nice to make sure that there's dimensionality in the values. Now, I'm going to say that this one is going to come forward here. So I'm going to pull it into its own field. Pulling down the red, and you can see I curved it in, and then I'm going to come into this dark, kind of working that wet into wet. Did you see how I went there back and forth? So that's creating some of that interesting dimensionality. I'm going to rinse out. I'm going to also take a little bit of my yellow and my red. I'm going to come to the edge here. I don't really need to worry about making sure that's dark because it kind of already is, but I may come back with a little more red. Oh, actually, let's come back up here and make sure that there's a bit of that shading coming up because it'll make it fun later. So light at top, dark at the center. We're doing fantastic. Not bad. Definitely making sure that that's dark there. Now we're going to be folding stuff over and putting a bright blue center in, but you get the gist of that, right?
Yeah.
Similar deal here. Let's come in with our red.
So. I like the colors though.
I think I'm going to arc that one in. Coming back with my purple. Brushing back and forth. You know, I'm just on my number 12 Textura here. My number 12 Raphael Textura. Don't know if I said it at the beginning of the step. If you ever see me not saying it at the beginning of the step, be like, hey,
I will try to remember that.
What's the brush?
What's the brush?
It's really hard because he's pushing all the brushes, so.
I'm pushing all the brushes.
Pushing all the buttons.
All the buttons and the brushes.
And the brushes. I'm going to add just a little more red to this, but it's going to be a little bit darker overall because it's over here. And I will come into my brighter kind of petal like that. I'm also now going to take this brighter red, come across those two that I already put up because we're doing dimensionality, right? Touch it with a couple places there. That's some dimensionality. That's the word of this painting. We're not like painting impasto where the paint is thick, but we're creating a sense of things by making it where everything is, you know, got a lot of value changes. Come back in a little bit with a lot more yellow. Actually, I think I want everything to dry here before I do the next one. So let's call a step and I'll come back and then we're going to do like this top finishing bit. So I want to put a little more contrast here. I'm going to take my yellow over to my orange and make a much brighter orange. I might even get a little bit of white into that. And we're going to kind of tip the edges of that little petal there. I might come back into my red with that lighter color. Ooh, it needs to be much lighter. And I'm just leaving little streaky strokes down. Can you see how that creates some dimensionality? We can also add a little white to our red. As an alternate way to get those effects. Oh, I'm digging that. Very, very digging it. A little bit there. Sometimes you just got to put a color here and there so it has balance around the piece. Gonna rinse out. Doing a similar vibe here. Let's take over a little bit of our white over here. Getting a little red into it, trying to create that streaking dimensionality. Really pulling those out from each other. And then because this was so dark, I can kind of come back with this pure red on that side. Maybe make sure there's a little bit of that there. So I put that through the flower. Now I don't have to dry it, but let's call this a step. And call it a step. And I'm going to take a little of my phthalo blue and ultramarine blue, perhaps even a bit of my Doc's purple, and I'm going to pull down a little center. Now I know I'm curling a leaf over that, a petal over that, but I want to get that center pulled down. And I'm also going to pull a center. While I'm here, I'm going to take some of my ultramarine blue and just phthalo blue maybe, mixed together, and a little white. And I'm going to put some elements down here that are a lighter blue. I'm just trying to make sure I don't have too much water on my brush. Just scribbling that back and forth. See how that's just sort of nice in that background? Okay. So we've given those a little bit of a, what is that? I don't know. Let's find out. Let's dry it first though. We're at it. We'll dry it first. So I'm going to take my number 12 Raphael and I'm going to load a little phthalo blue on it and some titanium white. And on the corner of this brush, I'm going to make little dashes. You might even wipe out and make much lighter dashes at the top right here. Top left. See how we're just kind of creating that? So it was the mid blue and then the lighter blue. Let's make some light dashes down here. Just finding the right blue for me. I'm not painting out all the dark value, it's the contrast that I need, right? Contrast is what I want. Little dashes. And the fact that they're rough and messy is great. And I think this is a good thing to realize when you're doing these, is that you can have something be rough and messy and still be, you know, really, really beautiful. Going to wipe off on my paper towel and get that lighter kind of put that heat there. Oh, it's terrific. I love it. Okay, now dry everything. So This little brush is going to continue on. It's going to be our handy dandy helper. We're going to paint our curled up petal, and I haven't finished any centers because sometimes at this stage I'm not entirely clear on how much of that petal will remain. And that's sort of an interesting experience that I have here. I'm going to take a little bit of my cad yellow and my cad red, and I'm going to come here and the edge will curl like that. Do a similar thing here. So like once you can see that, you can go, oh, do I need more centers or not? You know, that can be kind of a moment. And since I want to dry brush over, I do have to dry again. We'll call it a step, but we just want to finish this front petal, you know, against the back petals. Feel like we're cooking on this painting. Do you feel like we're cooking on this painting?
I do.
All right, I'm going to take a little bit of my cad red over to my cad yellow and make kind of a light orange here. And I may lift up this petal a little bit. And then I'll go more into my orange and white here. I'm going to wipe off, and then I will kind of bring my red up. Just take a little of our white and red together. That's why I like to really see where it's going to go. A little, this is the light orange, this is a lot more yellow. I can bring a little bit of my Doc's purple. Red, just kind of push that back a little bit. It's looking fairly nice. Gonna do the same thing down here. Coming over into that orange maybe. There we go. A lot more yellow. That was fun. That works. And then picking up a little bit of the red, that sort of pulls that forward facing petal in. A little bit of red and purple. Kind of underside shading, right? A little more pure red here. That's super duper fun stuff. Now while I'm here, I want to kind of take this into an even deeper value. So I'm going to go back into my Doc's purple and my ultramarine blue and kind of come underneath here and hit it with another deep value. So that just, you know, I pushed some colors forward and now I'm pushing some things back. And that's really about making sure that this contrast that we have here is working really well. See how we're going? I like that very, very much. Okay, now let's dry. So in this step, it's kind of optional. I'm going to continue on the 11th step to, ooh, that's fun. I don't know, that's weird when okay, into,
Distracted by the cameras. Ooh, look what I can do.
to do some butterflies. The piece is beautiful here. We could stop here, but I do feel like a couple bright, vibrant butterflies in phthalo blue and turquoise will be awesome. So I'm going to put those in, and I'm going to sketch them in initially in chalk and then paint them in with paint. So hopefully you can see my little chalk sketches, but it's just so that I can have scale and wing placement, because I want to hold a certain space and not much more than that. And that's sometimes why I'll sketch something in to just be like, do I have the space that I want to have? I like doing butterflies. Just generally, they're a ton of fun. Bring those out. You know, getting their little butterfly bodies in is kind of a joy.
Now, let's see here. You're going to put a second butterfly in?
I am going to put a second butterfly in, and I think I'm going to put it in up here.
Okay. So,
but I'm going to put it kind of going this way.
You put
so
that one in there.
Try to kind of put it in going that way. Or maybe I should put it in here, and so there's a little bit of a delicate balance on these little... See, that's why we sketch.
Chalk. It's good.
Chalk is good, or I'm doing a good chalk. This is
both.
a Dritz chalk tool. Dritz. It is a tailor's chalk drawing item. You get it at Joann's if you have those, but it's just for marking fabric, and it's really easy to get rid of. You could also use kids' chalk for a chalkboard. So just pulling those in, just making sure my wings are nice. You know, you can use the traceable here if you're like, you know, I'm with you.
That way you could. Now the traceable will have the butterflies on, so you can redraw the butterflies on if later on you needed to. So like if you painted all this in and you're like, I painted over my butterflies, you're like, don't worry, you could retrace them in.
Redo them. I like to make sure the back wings, I give them a little V. And hopefully I haven't painted out my flowers too much. But I think we're pretty good here.
Yeah, you touch the bottom when you fix that up a little bit because of your hand.
Oh, but I can see it.
Okay, well hold on. But now what I want to do is you're going to lean back, and we're going to call this step 12. Because we now have a little trace. We've drawn that in for everybody. So we can re-step that to get to here if they needed to.
If they needed to. Okay.
So now you can proceed to
All right, I see the logic of your thinking. Okay. I'm going to switch to a round brush. I'm going to just use my Raphael number 10 round Textura. And I'm going to begin with a little bit of phthalo blue and green, and interestingly enough, a smidge of my burnt sienna. Because we want to start kind of with a little bit of a dark value. And I will just paint in the wings at first.
That seems good.
And I'm not unhappy so far. But you can always give me a minute because, you know, artists. All right, so there we go. And you can erase the chalk. I'll show you how when it's all done. We'll erase the chalk, but right now I'm just trying to get this in. So it's phthalo green, phthalo blue, and a little burnt sienna is the darkest color. Hard to see here, I know.
Not too bad actually. We can see the differences there. See, it does show up as a darker blue.
Now, we got to, those being in is necessary, so we're going to call this a step. I'm going to dry it, and we'll come back and I'll show you like the cool kind of finished up details on the wings. So as we continue on, I'm going to clean up the chalk a little bit. I'm just taking a damp brush. My paint underneath is super, super dry. And that's going to let it just kind of vanish. It looks like it's going just into the background, but it's really there cleanly. Don't panic. All right, the next thing is I'm going to get my number 10 Raphael again. We're going to take a little bit of our phthalo blue and our phthalo green and some titanium white. And you're going to come here and make little dashes, kind of almost like a texture. My big thing is I just don't want to get too much water in my brush because I'm kind of layering on a thicker thing of paint. I'm going to kind of put 3 strong ones here. So we're starting to see the blue. Yeah. And just putting in kind of like, these wings are a bit dashy. You can come back with phthalo blue to, you know, work in some dimensionality at the body. We're going to actually really, really hit this with quite a few like little levels and layers, much like we did for the flowers. All right, so we have that sort of in the center. I'm going to rinse this out. Dry this off. I'm going to take my turquoise right here and I'm going to grab a little bit of my pure yellow, mix it in. A lot of white. It's quite light, isn't it? Just kind of pulling that there. Just stroking back. The highlight is just coming back over. So in a way, they feel a little bit like flying flowers.
Yeah, they really kind of do.
I like that very much. Mixing in a lot more yellow and a lot more white. Little highlights there. Okay, so right now we have to dry that. I'm gonna come in and show you how to add the bodies and the final wing details, and we're like nearly done.
Almost.
Almost. So I want to add some details, and I'm gonna put on some glasses so I can really see what I'm doing. I'm gonna start with my number 10 Raphael Textura, and then I'm gonna go into the Precision number 2 liner for high detail. I'm gonna get my brush a little bit wet and then some black paint. Now almost on a glaze where it's like super thinned, I'm going to also come under here. and kind of add a bit of a shadow. Can you see that?
Yeah.
And I'll wiggle that out a bit. I do want it to be glazed so the brush can be... A glaze is a very thin, transparent coat. Sometimes you can kind of rub it with your finger. And that's just about pushing the contrast between those two objects a bit. I'll come up on the between the wing. And a little bit of the body there. Same thing here. And I may just push it back. You don't have to push it back with your finger. You could use glazing medium. You could use water. It's all fine what you choose to do. I'm just trying to make sure that this is kind of coming out of the shadow. If I lose any of my color, I just come back. I'm not too in the way of the camera, am I? You know, I just push that in. Now I'm going to get my black and again do the same thing. Kind of paint in the body and kind of wiggle thick for the head. That's all I've got to do there. I put this aside. Right, I've got this. I'm going to come in and get a little of my turquoise and my white. I'm going to add a little highlight kind of down that little body. It's not my brightest highlight, but it is right, and then come down the little body, adding that highlight. So you can kind of, that's how you see their little kind of world there. The other thing I want to do while I'm here is I'm going to get right into my red. And I'm going to make some bright splatters. They're like little markings, but they're also almost like the butterfly flew through paint. Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah, it really is.
So this is fun because I just sort of let the brush work here for me. Can you see how I do that? Where the brush just catches the canvas, then I might wiggle in a spot.
Yeah.
The thing that's hard here for you guys, we're going to go up to the next butterfly. I'll let you get up there, John. The thing that's hard for you guys when you're doing this is that you won't trust your wiggle. You'll trust my wiggle that I'm just making up right now. Right? I'm making it up right now. You're going to trust that. And then your wiggle, you will say that wiggle isn't right. That wiggle is not exactly like that other wiggle and therefore is not good. And that is the thing you've got to break yourself from and start to, trust that your marks on your canvas are super valid. Now, last thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to thin some black paint. I'm going to load it on my brush, and I'm going to try to do the antenna. Wish me luck on that. Oh, sorry. Same thing down here, but I won't see it until I add the highlights. Right, like I've got to have a highlight on that antenna. It's not the brightest highlight I'll have, but that little reflection, and I hate to, don't go anywhere, John. I'm going to do a little bit here. This one won't show up till the bright reflection highlight, but at least you can kind of see what we've got. All right. Pretty good. pretty
It's
wonderful.
very good.
You know, we've got some great color. We've got some great pop. When we come back, we don't even have to dry. Well, actually, let's dry. Let's dry because we don't want to smear paint while we're doing detail work, do we?
No.
No. So now I'm going to use a product called Golden Fluid Acrylic. You could also just thin your white with water. But, you know, we're cooking along. You know, I don't want to do that. Preferentially, I'm still going to use my liner. And here's how it's going to go. It's going to go butterfly, poppy, poppy, butterfly. I just did what I said don't do.
I think you did.
I gotta find where the paint was that I drug all over the canvas. See, this is why we do these things.
See, now we know how to fix it. Step 15, fixing drug paint.
Well, we all have little boo-boos, and that was my boo-boo right now. If I'm at all concerned about the color, I can just come back through a pigment. See, it just takes it right out. And then I'm going to wipe my hands I never have them here, and I think it's crazy that I don't, but a set of baby wipes near your workspace to wipe your hands periodically isn't the worst idea that anybody ever had in the universe of ever. Okay, so we know where we're going. The butterfly itself up here, he's going to be highlighted with a little fine line of a little white here. It's very delicate. One of the things I don't worry about is always connecting the line. That's not that important. I'm going to do his top wings first. And then so I'm adding little highlights to his antenna. That'll help him pop. And then his bottom wings. And that's just to prevent me from doing what I just showed you. You know, we're just kind of getting the edges. And what we're saying is maybe a little light is captured on that little edge. I can also come in and a couple little dots if I want to. So there's options there. Now here for the poppy, I'm going to take some of my red and a lot of my white. So it's not white. It is definitely in our poppy, maybe a little yellow, in our poppy color, but it's much lighter than anything that's there. I come in and line the edge. Maybe on this little inside that's lighter, I'll come into a lighter pink, right? Just a little bit. Hard to know. Like I get a little thing going in my mind and then I'm like, stop now, stop now. And come down here like we talked about in the order that we talked about. And everything about this is just about making sure that I'm not dragging the paint. And this is something we like to think of, you know, a lot as artists. Is when and why we paint something
Right.
in the painting. Back into the white. What I did is I wiped my brush off on the paper towel and sucked that back up.
Aha, gotcha.
I had a hidden drop That hidden drop went and got me. So sometimes when you rinse out detail brushes, the moisture on the brush like holds on the handle. And then at the most obnoxious moment that it could possibly do it, never does it when you wouldn't care or like when you would want it to because it would make a neat little sploot.
Right.
It does it when you definitely don't want it to. Comes down and drops right on what you're doing. A little bit of antenna there. We got a little crooked, but I'm okay with that, actually. But if I wanted to change that, like if that got away from me, I would just come back with my background color. And change that positioning of the line. So I'm never that stressed about it. A few more little. A little bit on that edge there. And another little place that we can do it now that I'm looking is maybe we do some highlights inside those little flowers just to make that interesting. Okay. All right. What a strange little painting. But a lot of fun. And it's a good time to evaluate. One of the things that I can suggest if you are having trouble seeing your red spots is come back maybe with a little bit of orange. See how that pops them a bit?
Yeah.
I don't really change them. I trust the spot, but sometimes it's nice to have, I guess, dimensionality. Dimensionality. Just so it shines a little bit like, you know, a butterfly would.
Right.
Okay, I like that. That was worth it. Worth the trouble. I shall sign the painting. Because it's, you know, yes, it's an abstracted floral with little strange, expressive, strange butterflies. So, you know, not an objective study of nature, no sorry Bob. But that said, we know enough about what it is where the signature isn't going to throw the whole composition off. Took my glasses off too soon. There we go. When we come back, I'm going to tell you what. Oh, I'm back. Telling you what you're going to do next. Sometimes John stops it, then I get bigger, and then we talk about what we're going to do next, but we're back. So hopefully you came by because you're doing the daily painting project, right? Like you're doing daily painting and you want to know more about it and you've been here with me every day and you just, this is today and you're just loving it. But maybe you just found this painting because you love poppies and butterflies and that is symbolic and meaningful to you. So whichever reason, be sure you check the description below because there's links to the website, and on the website I have more lessons, like thousands of them, many poppies. If you like poppies or butterflies, it's a topic I cover often and in different ways at all levels of painting. There's resources that you can check out there. We have a store, so maybe there's material here you'd like to try out. You could do that. You don't have to do any of that. These lessons are just free on YouTube, so don't worry about that. But also, maybe you want something that's more connective and sequential. There's the school, and in the school there's like extra motivational talk from me and some extra information that might be helpful to you. So whatever it is that you need. Also on this one, we do have a traceable. So that's free and that's on the website. It's also provided in the school and hopefully the book. I'm still going to say it.
Yep.
Because I believe in it. That's how much I believe in it. All right. I want you guys to be good to yourselves, be good to each other, and I'll see you at an easel really soon. Bye bye.